Okay, you can be seated.
Once again, welcome to the University of Cambodia. Dr. Mike, New Zealand.
I'm very proud to introduce New Zealand as yourself. Very famous in the world for voluntarily stepping down before alternatives you would have wanted. But just a couple of words about New Zealand that I think we should all really be familiar with. New Zealand is a comparatively small country. I think the population of New Zealand, the whole country, is about the same as Sydney. But New Zealand punches well above weight. Anybody who's ever seen the All Blacks play, who've dominated the world probably for the last 12 years, and will demonstrate their proficiency again when the Lions, who are New Zealand later this season, will realize just how proud this small nation is, and how proud we are to have you here today. Thank you.
A sentence also. You know, New Zealand has a marketing wonder that's quoted a lot in the stuff in business school. It was known Chinese gooseberry is now become the kiwi food, and it's a wonder, and it's selling like hot cake everywhere, including my own country. Mr. President, I hand over to you to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Well, on behalf of the scholars and students here, to indeed delighted to have right with us this morning on the campus. We just had officially inaugurated the room up on the ninth floor, and followed that successful inauguration. Now we're here meeting with Scottish students. The Youth Cambodia, Your Excellency, is right on our we give out a lot of stuff to the students. And the students represented here, they are basically meaning that all Scottish students can you see they are openly on a highly competitive basis. And only the best that they are able to into the university. At the same time, you see, I can say, see that we have a very tough exam, not only during the admission period, but also tough exam, central exam throughout the entire national program. And we have a 50-50 retention rate, meaning students who are not able to stay on by the first or second year and move on. And those stay on, they are the best. And after graduation, they compete in the labor market here, whether in Cambodia or in ASEAN. So this morning, we have the opportunity to present to you, I would say, a key global leader. Prime Minister Chong is not a stranger to ASEAN. In fact, he's very well known in the region in ASEAN, both in Cambodia and around the world. And that's why I will not introduce it all. You know him already. But the most important thing is that maybe we invite the right honorable to say some words, and then we allow to have a dialogue if possible. And you can constructively engage in any conversation here. This is, I would say, a real opportunity. And but I also would say that with us, we have on my far right would be very exactly an old friend, but also I say Ambassador Dr. Handa, our Chancellor and co-founder. And to my left here, I see Ben King, Ambassador New Zealand to Thailand, but also Ambassador New Zealand to Cambodia. And also we have other colleagues from the embassy of New Zealand in Bangkok, based in Bangkok, but also based in Cambodia. I can say Dr. Handa has been quite generous in many different ways, and that's why the reception yesterday evening, I think that I will say all the things that I will say absolutely correct. Dr. Handa has a big heart, an open heart, nothing more the people of Cambodia, and many of these starting to hear the benefits from this generosity. That's why they have an opportunity to study this university. Otherwise, we would have something wrong. And that's why the session this morning is basically at the request of also of Dr. Handa that Dr. Handa would like to have the scholarship student meet with a world-renowned leader and to have this opportunity to have that. Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome.
Well, Dr. Kogemon, firstly, thank you for the invitation to be at the University of Cambodia. It's great to be back in the kingdom, to have an opportunity to open the New Zealand brew. This time in my capacity really as the patron of the Handa Foundation, but also obviously as former Prime Minister of New Zealand. So let me just cover off a few topics quite quickly, and then if you want, you should feel free to ask me questions on anything you'd like. I'm sure I can answer them. But I was Prime Minister of New Zealand from 2008 to 2016, so 3 election terms. And it's an amazing privilege when you get to lead your country. I mean, New Zealand is, as Mike said, has been a small country that's been doing immensely well for actually a long period of time. We're fundamentally agriculturally based economy, so we're 5 million people broadly. We started life as a colony of Britain, and we were really Britain's little farm in the South Pacific. We're a great place to grow things. But the economy's developed enormously over the course of the last, I guess, 50 to 100 years. And so it's a very advanced, developed economy now. And in the time that I was Prime Minister, we had to deal with a big range of issues, from obviously the global financial crisis, right through some very devastating earthquakes that we had in Christchurch and most recently in Kaikoura, and a range of other issues. But our government was a very economically focused government, and I think over that period of time we really transformed the New Zealand economy to the point where it's really been the fastest growing developed economy in the sort of world, really. We had very low levels of unemployment, very high levels of wage growth, and significant investment happening in infrastructure. And I think a lot of what really underpins New Zealand is that we're a small country, we're at the bottom of the world, we know that no one owes us a living, and for New Zealand to be successful, we have to make goods or produce services which are at a higher level than everybody else's, so that we can compete on that world stage into a growing middle income consumer base. And while that started with food, in recent times it's been everything from tourism to education services. So educating youngsters from around the world earns New Zealand about $2.5 billion a year, so it's a very successful business in its own right. What has been the enormous change over the last, really the last 10 or 20 years, is that Asia now is the growth of, the engine room to global growth. And while China's been a really big part of that, often it's overlooked what's happening in the other countries in the ASEAN area. So it's easy to think of China just simply because of sheer scale, and China is, depending how you measure it, New Zealand's biggest counterparty now for export goods. But realistically, it's what you're seeing in Cambodia, it's what you're seeing in Indonesia, it's what you're seeing in Malaysia, and Singapore, and Hong Kong, and Thailand. All of these countries are rapidly growing and developing. And we're talking about the car first went to Singapore in 1983. And to give you some idea, the main road in Singapore is Orchard Road. You've been in Singapore, but it's Orchard Road. And Orchard Road looks like kind of Fifth Avenue in New York, or whatever. It's a very wealthy street. When I first went there in 1983, there were farm animals in that street. So not that long ago, Singapore was nothing like it is today. And even in the 5 years since I've been in Phnom Penh, I can see a lot of change happening here. It's the same when I go to Vietnam or I go to Thailand. And 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, Cambodia is going to be a very, very different country. The fundamentals that underpin your society, your beliefs and your values, those things will hold true, but the average wealth of the Cambodian society will rise and the opportunities will be huge. So the first thing I'd just say to you is that for any society to succeed and to grow, you're competing not only with your fellow Cambodians, but you're actually competing with students from around the world. It's not just the students that are pouring out of the University of Cambodia, it's the students that are pouring out of Peking University or Tsinghua University in Beijing, or kids that are coming out of the University of Auckland or University of Canterbury in New Zealand, or Oxford or Cambridge or Yale or Harvard, all around the world we're seeing these students. But a country needs that level of academic qualification to succeed. And in fact, this morning when I was putting my suit on, I was watching one of the international TV channels, and they were talking about Singapore, and its last budget had the largest percentage of money being spent on innovation and science of any comparable country in the world. I think their last budget they had over $600 billion just being spent on innovation. And again, if you go back to the history of Singapore, in the mid-1980s, Singapore made running shoes, like in the same way that China at the moment makes an iPhone. In 5 years' time, China won't be putting together iPhones. They'll be creating the equivalent phone, which is better technology, better capability, lighter, faster, more durable, runs more cheaply than Apple. That's the evolution that's happening. So I think you live in the most exciting part of the world, and for a long time, New Zealand's gone away now, I think in recent years, from saying we are Britain's little colony, we sell things to Britain or to Europe, to that we're really an Asian country. And for us, going to the ASEAN conference or East Asian Summit or APEC has really been the focus of our attention. And it was one of the reasons why President Obama spent a lot of time trying to put together the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was really a trade agreement with those 12 countries in the Asia-Pacific area, so that we could build a free trade network which would again allow us to grow and succeed. And for Cambodia, the reason why that's critically important is that without that access to that middle income consumer base, you're relying on selling your products either here at home in Cambodia to a lower income economy than you'd find in Japan, New Zealand, Australia, wherever it might be, or when your goods go to those countries, they'll have tariffs applied to them, or they'll be restricted because of quotas. And so free trade is something that lifts the world up, and it drives specialisation, but it drives far better outcomes. And New Zealand's been one of the leading proponents of free trade, and has been very successful doing that. So I came to politics from a very different place. I was an investment banker. I spent 20 years in investment banking, largely the last 10 years in London, running global foreign exchange and European derivative trading for Merrill Lynch. So I spent 15 years in politics, and really for me, I was never a career politician. I didn't want to stay forever. I wanted to make contributions to New Zealand and to move on. So I'm 55, and incredibly young looking 55, I tell my worry about. She doesn't actually believe me, but I told her anyway. And so I kind of thought, look, for the next 10 or 15 years while I'm carry on working, I want to do a range of different things, and they'll be in lots of different areas, quite commercially focused actually, lots of things. But Dr. Handa first became involved in New Zealand really after the Christchurch earthquakes took place. And he has many different foundations and they do different things. Some of them are related around sport or promotion of particularly access is a very important, but just one part of a very, very big contribution that he makes around the world. And he has enormous numbers of people who support him because they believe in the work that he's doing. So when I stepped down as Prime Minister, he invited me to be a patron of a number of those organisations or an ambassador for them. And one of those is the Hungry Foundation. So Bill and I were talking just about the opportunity to come out firsthand and really see what he's doing on the ground. Because I think when you see that, you get a great sense of what an organisation is about. And the world relies on people like Dr. Handa. There are, I'd like to say plenty of them, there aren't necessarily plenty of them, but there are people like Dr. Handa or Bill Gates or Warren Buffett who have been very successful and who decided that they're going to donate and give away a lot of their wealth because they want to see it make a difference to so many other people. We know in a country like Cambodia, relatively modest amounts of money can make an enormous difference to what's going on. So that's really why we're here and what we're doing, and very much looking forward to it. But the most important thing I just sort of say to you, I suppose, is that I think when I used to go and talk to a lot of schools in New Zealand, they were absolutely convinced that the number one determining factor of whether they were successful in their life was ability. They were always convinced that if they were good at something, that would make them successful, and if they weren't very good at something, then they would not be successful. And I always used to try and tell them, far more important than ability is attitude. Do you believe you can be successful? Are you prepared to work hard to do that? Do you have dreams? Do you want to follow those dreams? And I think it's easy to sit back and sometimes imagine that those things aren't possible, but you're living proof that even at a very young age, you can follow your own dreams. I suspect that none of you have parents that went to university, and your children will probably be far better educated than even you are. And you have potential really to make an enormous difference, not just here in Cambodia, but on the world stage. So I think my only advice to you is that whatever your dream is, my dream was to become Prime Minister of New Zealand, and I became 38th Prime Minister of New Zealand. And of course, even if you don't make it, even if you have a dream or a goal and ambition, you just, in the end, don't quite make it. In my view, it's always a lot better to try to achieve that than to be fearful of the fact that you might fail. Because people respect you for giving it your all. People never respect you for just coming up with a reason why something's not possible. The question is, why is something possible? And I think that's what you need to do. And I think in a country like Cambodia, where those opportunities are enormous, you should really grasp them and give it everything you've got. And when you've completed your life, you'll be able to look back and think that you gave everything and you enjoyed it. And that's really the philosophy that I live my life under. So that's really good.
I thought this is really the best advice. All right, I will give to you with great wisdom, spreading from high ground. And I think the three keywords I pick up right now: one's ability, attitude, and dream. So these really, to summarize the three keywords. So again, this opportunity, let's ask if you have any questions that you want to ask that I understood. And never fear to give your best. Okay? Always give your best, but never fear. And never try and spend a lot of time to come up with all excuses that cannot do.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy now. This is the best opportunity.
There are no silly questions, only silly answers in my experience, but not silly questions.
Let's get an icebreaker. All right. Okay, now I do.
Thank you for your presence here today. The first question that I would love to ask you is that I do believe strongly it's all about dreams, attitude, and abilities. But let's talk about dreams only. Once you have a great dreams, there's always two fears: fear of failure and fear
it's a great question to ask because fear of failure is what is a far bigger driving factor for why people don't follow whatever ambition is that they have. I mean, success is something that you enjoy or manage, and success in its own right can bring complications, and that's why a lot of fabulously successful artists or singers or entertainers, often comedians, are often very quite troubled people. Their personalities are often complex. Look, I think the thing with failure is it's a state of mind. When you run for, say, become the leader of your country or the leader of your political party, there are many reasons why it might not work. I mean, your timing might be wrong, or some other factor might happen, or someone on your team might let you down, or just the sense of the opportunity being the right time might not be considered real. And you always feel that pressure, but I think you can do two things with that pressure. You can either let it drown you, or you can, I think, embrace that and use it as a form of strength to drive you to do what you do. And I think if you never failed at anything, then you've never actually tried anything. And most entrepreneurs, if you read with Richard Branson or any sort of person with a name, almost all of them had unsuccessful ventures before they had the very successful venture that they're on top. And I think the question is, in so much that people worry about failure, they worry about what other people will think of that failure. They're not worried about what they think themselves, because they know what they're doing. They worry that their family or their friends will think less of them. But in my experience, your real friends and your true family will think much less of you if you don't try than if you actually try and you don't quite succeed. And so, it's like coming to university. I mean, when you come to university, there's always a risk that you're not going to pass, or there's always a risk that you weren't going to get in when you set your scholarship exams, or there were risks all the way, but you took those risks and you got the rewards from them. And I just inherently believe that I would much, much rather try and fail than not to try at all. So don't worry about it. The only other last thing I'd say is, it's what you think that's the most important thing. You can spend your life trying to want other people to think good things about you or to think a certain way, but when you go into politics, you realise after a while that there's just some people who will never agree with you. It doesn't matter how right you are or even how wrong you are, they're never going to agree with you. And so after a while, you learn to have the self-confidence of what you're doing, and you just have to back yourself to give it a go.
Thank you. I'm Ron from the Political Science from the University of Cambodia. I have two questions. One is, does TPP work? And does TPP is the economic, political, and strategic tool to counter China rise?
Yeah. Okay, so in simple terms, if you don't understand, TPP was a proposed free trade agreement with 12 countries, but included the likes of the United States, Canada, Mexico, New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, Vietnam. So if you look at New Zealand, we have some of the most comprehensive bilateral free trade agreements in the world. So our first major free trade agreement was between New Zealand and Australia, and it's essentially open market, open access, free movement of labour across both countries. If you're a New Zealander, you have the right to get up and go and work in Australia, and vice versa. We can pretty much sell any product into Australia on totally unrestricted access and the other way around. Whenever we looked at those free trade agreements, generally we go away and economists will model what they think the economic stimulation and impact of reducing those tariffs and opening up those markets. Because two things happen, don't they? One is that because you no longer pay the tariffs going in there, there's a sheer benefit. So if you're selling infant baby formula to China and it attracts a 20% tariff and you're selling $5 billion of it, you're paying $1 billion in tariffs, so those tariffs disappear. The second thing though, of course, is that because on a relative basis that those goods become cheaper in the market, then the consumer demand is elastic, will go up, so they'll buy more of it. China FTA, they modelled that as having, I think the initial numbers were about $150 million and about $1 billion worth of other benefits, so $150 million in tariff reductions and about $1 billion of other benefits. It was 11 times more successful than the most optimistic economic modelling that we saw. So every FTA we've done has just been far more successful. And so that's the first thing it does. The second thing it does is that it reduces the price of goods in a country. So if you, for instance, have a big, say that the Kingdom of Cambodia puts on a tariff on a mobile phone, and Apple sell their mobile phone here and the tariff makes it more expensive, then you as the consumer have to spend more of your money buying it. So funnily enough actually, as tariff rates go down, the average standard of living of the low and middle income consumers in those countries go up. So years ago when New Zealand was a very closed economy, fortress New Zealand, we couldn't export anything to New Zealand, we had terrible products and we paid a lot for them. As we got rid of all that, we had huge increase in the standard of living for low and middle income New Zealanders. So I think TPP is in real trouble because without the United States, then I think you're taking away what is a $19 trillion economy and a big driving force behind why it will happen. I think it's a temporary thing because I think eventually, whatever Donald Trump thinks, I think eventually the United States is going to have to return to wanting to be an open economy because they benefit far more than they get from being an open economy. The other thing is that there's no question that part of what drove President Obama, because I was very intimately involved in that, was what was called the Asian pivot. And that really meant that the United States wants to have a leadership presence in the Asia region, partly because it wants access to the consumer base here, but it also wants to have influence of its thinking in the way it does things. And countries that trade together don't fight. Countries that trade together understand each other. There are lots more reasons to have discussions. And I think that if the United States is absent in that discussion, then China will fill the vacuum of that because it's certainly very mercantile in its approach. It wants to open up its borders, it wants to export, it wants to sell. I personally don't think there's any bad thing. We have a very good relationship with New Zealand and China, and we have a very good relationship with the United States. But if I was the leader of the United States and the leader of the free world, I would want to make sure that I have influence in the fastest growing region in the world. And I think that's the real dilemma for the Trump administration. It's not just about trade, it's about much wider issues than that.
That's a wonderful view on TPP. Yes.
Hello, it is an honor to meet you today. My first time encountering your name was on my report. I used to be a journalist.
All right.
So, and then I first reported your case on New Zealand, and it's really such an honor to meet you in person today. Today, as an international relations student, and currently still researching about international relations, I want to know your thought about Southeast Asia. What is the policy what does the policy of New Zealand to Southeast Asia, and how would you intend, or New Zealand have any intention of joining the ASEAN country to become the 12th ASEAN country, and what is the recommendation for New Zealand to ASEAN country in approach of the big hegemonic countries such as the US and China, and as well as Russia, which is becoming power, and how does New Zealand perspective in seeing how we as a small country should handle all this hegemony?
Well, I think over time it's possible that it will become a full ASEAN member, but in reality, being a dialogue partner and being part of the East Asian Summit has been a very effective way of engaging. And the initial group that they put together with ASEAN sort of made sense, and whether a lot would change if we became full ASEAN partner, I don't think there's tremendous differences. We're still very engaged, either through the East Asian Summit involvement or through APEC. From New Zealand's point of view, we're very focused on development in the region, and think one of the questions you have to ask when you're giving away, because we give away, you know, the better part of $700 million a year, maybe a bit more. So when you're giving away $8, the question is, you know, where should you give that and how should you give that? And I think it's far more important for New Zealand to be making contributions in areas where it believes it's either got a competitive advantage or it can make a difference. And that's without doubt agricultural, both technology, innovation, science. It's in government where we've had one of the longest unbroken democracies in the world and where we have no corruption in New Zealand. So very, very good pillars that are foundation stones of a healthy, open democracy. So we train lots of future sort of leaders in the countries because they come to New Zealand, both in government administration but also in their parliaments. And I think the third element of that is education. It's the sort of thing that, you know, that you see on display here. So we're very committed to that, and I think we'll just continue to grow. I mean, if you look years and years ago, New Zealand's big, you know, high commissions or embassies were in the United Kingdom and Washington and Paris and places like that, and now they're dramatically changing. I mean, of course, you know, the major capitals of the world are still very important, but we've been going through, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars upgrading our offices in Beijing. We don't have permanent representation here on the ground. You know, the ambassador covers Cambodia from Bangkok, but you know, 5-10 years from now, New Zealand will have an ambassador here in Montreal. That'll be the way it will work. Just like we had no representation like we started as Prime Minister in Myanmar, you know, now we increasingly do. So, but, you know, there's no question that we're becoming more integrated in Asia, and Asia's becoming a lot more important. I think the bigger question on international relations is you know, are the United States and China, and to a certain degree Russia, competing, or are they in conflict with one another, or are they actually trying to work, you know, largely on a similar set of issues? And I think people always worry a lot about conflict. You know, they worry about China and its engagement in South China Seas. You know, they worry about, you know, that there could be some other agenda because they're developing. And my own view of that is that what really drives the Chinese is about lifting what is a population of the better part of 1.4 billion people, lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. They're far less interested in getting into conflict with anybody else. They're far more interested in saying, how do we ensure the long-term continuation of the Communist Party? And for that to happen, the people of China have to believe the government's delivering for them and delivering results in a better standard of living for them. So I've been much less worried than many other leaders that there will be particular conflict in the South China Seas or particular conflict around the world. And increasingly you're seeing China taking a leadership role in areas like climate change, in the development of renewable energy, in trying to find a resolution to some conflicts that we see around the world. And I think it's a matter of playing to your strengths. And if you take a place like North Korea, where you've got an inherently very unstable, unpredictable young leader who's untested, the best relationship is probably not a great relationship, but the best relationship in the world with North Korea comes from the Chinese. And they are far more likely to be successful in convincing Kim Jong-un to do the right thing than, for instance, the United States administration. And I suspect if we were all really privy to the conversations that Xi Jinping would have with, you know, nowadays Donald Trump and the old days President Obama, they're very much on the same page of saying how do we address these sorts of issues. So, you know, I think you have a lot of factors around the world that can drive instability. But my own personal view is that while there'll always be some sort of contest for who's the biggest and who's the most powerful, and all those things that we like to compete over, what is going to happen is that over the next 10 to 15 years, China will emerge even more strongly than it is as a superpower. It will do that because its economic growth rate will continue at a better part of 6%. And if you work with a $10 trillion economy, then it's not going to take, you know, that long before they have an economy which is pretty similar to the United States. And that's a really good thing because, you know, that provides we shouldn't be fearful of that process, I think, and we should enhance that process. And it's like the United Nations. When you go to the United Nations, I used to go to Leaders Week, you get 192 countries turn up from everyone from Gaddafi to sort of Robert Mugabe and, Hugo Chavez and, all these crazy people sometimes. But, you sometimes you sit there and you go, this is chaotic and it's mad and it's a talk fest and they are achieving things. But then on the other side of the coin, you sit there and say, but if we didn't have it, we'd create it. Because whether we like it or not, we're all a bit different, but many things were very similar. And the similar factors are almost universally from whatever country you come to the world. People want happiness, they want health for themselves and their families, and they want prosperity and they want peace. No one really wants to live in a place that's war-torn and where they're fearful and where they can't see a future for themselves and their children. And almost every parent on the planet wants their child to do better than them. So I think there's a lot of alignment and thinking a lot more than what people would say.
Well, we don't have a lot of time, in fact, because there's another program I'm doing, but I can pick up 2 more questions. But I can be brief, but yes, I want to have, yes, for you.
So thank you for your presentation speech. And as a leader, you have contributed to as a small country like New Zealand. So I have 2 questions. First of all, is about the scholarship of the New Zealand government. So do you have any key tip or strategy to recommend to the Cambodian student? And my second question, as a big country around the world, it's like a powerful country, one of the powerful countries around the world. Do you think what is your greatest contribution to the world? Thank you.
Well, I think the first thing in terms of scholarship and education is, I would say, if you get the opportunity to come down to New Zealand and study as part of the scholarship programs that the government provides or others private parties, the government, you should take that opportunity. Not because the learning and the skills that you're getting here at the University of Cambodia is world class, I'm absolutely convinced that it is, but there's something life-changing about getting the opportunity to live in another country, experience their values, get a sense of their society, and the friends that you make and the things that you do are really important. I think the thing to remember with all education is it's not about consuming a finite set of information. University isn't trying to teach you the information that's in your class. University is trying to teach you how to learn, because you have a lifetime of learning. When you become Prime Minister, you don't know the answer to everything. You think you do, but you don't. But what you do know, hopefully, is the skill set to allow you to learn and allow you to apply some quite basic principles to the results you're trying to achieve. What's New Zealand's biggest contribution? I think in a lot of ways we would say, I think, that we are a leader in the world of fairness and equity and freedom. So we were the first country in the world, for instance, to give women the right to vote. In our country, we've had a female Prime Minister, a female head of state, a female Chief Justice, a female leader of the biggest corporation, all at the same time. So I think the first thing about New Zealand is that we're very, what we would say, egalitarian society. We're not a society that relies on status. We're a country that says, your jack is as good as their master, and in the end, you earn the respect of your fellow citizens through the actions and deeds that you do, not because someone tells you that because you went to a particular school or did a particular thing you should have that. I think the second thing that New Zealand's proven is that it's honest and fair in its view on the world. And so we say what we really think. We believe that climate change is an important issue, just like we believe that free trade is important. We're not all of a sudden saying, because Donald Trump's decided that TPP is not a good idea, I have absolutely no intentions of getting up and saying he's right and I'm wrong. I think I'm right, and I'm going to keep telling him I think he's wrong. And I think that's what New Zealand has done. I think we just got to keep saying this is what's important in the world. So we're often seen as a bit of a non-smoker, and in fact we were talking about last night, but every so often you get the opportunity to go as a non-permanent member of the Security Council, and the way that works is that all countries get a chance to vote, so by definition there's 192 countries of the United Nations, and so they get to vote. So we've been on it a few times. We were a very small country back in the 90s when we were on. Last time we were on was actually the last few years, but prior to that was in the 90s and 80s and 90s. And New Zealand was one of the sole reasons why action was taken in Rwanda. We literally saved the lives of millions of people in Rwanda because we forced the Security Council to take action. And when we stood up to try and get on the Security Council for 2015-16, we won in the first ballot, and we were in a contested vote up against Turkey and Spain. So very powerful, very aligned countries. And Turkey was at this possibly changing a little bit, but moderate Muslim. They could rely on all of those countries to vote for it. And Spain was part of the European Union and Spanish-speaking group, and we won the first ballot. And we won because I think people respected that New Zealand was just a good, honest, decent country. As I said, there's no corruption in our society. There's no, it's just a fair, decent place to run a democracy. And I think, in the end, people have to be able to control their own future. They have to feel as though they've got a stake in their own future. And to do that, you have to have a government that you can rely on and that you can vote in. And if they fail to deliver what you think is important as a voter, you have to be able to vote them out. And that healthy democracy is what creates a good society. And it might be annoying having a free press and an intruding press and all of those sorts of things, but actually that also is an important part of a healthy country, just like an independent judiciary. So in New Zealand, if you go to court, then you'll get a judge, and the judge will literally hear the case and give you a decision based on New Zealand law, international precedent, and what the New Zealand precedent is, not because they're getting paid by something. And we can go to lots of countries in the world where New Zealand investors invest in countries. If there's a law case, they lose because someone's paying the judge. And in the end, that just stops development. So I think that's New Zealand's contribution, not its size or its land chops or its all that. So I think its contribution is that it's held tight to what we think are decent, fair principles that people should follow.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's a very interesting and very honest answer. I remember back in 1992, Cambodia also received peacekeepers from New Zealand. But in recent years, in the past, I think Cambodia has been also contributed to the peacekeeping forces based on our honest work that is united experience and also the political movement on freedom peacekeeping. And when we used together about who elected this office, we wanted more freedom peacekeeping Cambodia. This continues to have that experience with your country since early time, but many people including during the period the transition authority. So we have some people whose country have first hand experience with New Zealand. But the last one, Dr. Yotana, that be short because thank you.
Thank you, Excellency President. So, Excellency is John Case. It's about education because I am one of the person who work in higher education, so we would like to know the success story of the higher education in New Zealand. What are the key success, and then what would you advise if you would like to give to the Cambodian who works in higher education? That is interesting. Thank you. And I would like to inform that some of our colleagues have got the scholarship to study a master's degree in education, so they may come in need of this to
seeing around the world, which is the completion rate of young students at school is dramatically increasing. And so there's it's arguably a good thing, but there's no question there's an escalation going on of people's education achievements. And so if you look at my son, for instance, he's got about 3 months to go to the least, and he finishes at Auckland University. So he's doing double major, double degree at he's 21. So he's doing Bachelor of Finance, Bachelor of Property, majors in Property, Economics, and Finance. When I went to university, I got a Bachelor of Commerce. It's an incredibly basic degree. And when I went to university, a tiny fraction of the population, infinitesimal amount of the population went to university. Now, it's the expectation of probably a third or half our students that they'll consider some form of higher education. So that's a global trend. I think it partly reflects that people have worked out that the opportunities are so much greater if we have that. In New Zealand, if you go to university, you can take a student loan. So the way that works is, say you became a doctor in New Zealand, it would cost about 100,000 New Zealand dollars, so about 70,000 US dollars to do that degree. We would lend you that money, and you pay no interest on that money, but you pay the money back when you start working. So if you look across the board in New Zealand, after 5 years, graduates on average earn about, I think it's 40 or 50% more than a less qualified person. So while you're investing in education, essentially it's an asset about the long-term both income earning potential, but also the sorts of jobs that you can do. And that's the other point really, is that it's not just solely a matter of how much you earn. And I think even if you look around the world at prime ministers and presidents, and you accept that you're dealing with again, a huge number of countries and a lot of different systems, almost all of them are far better educated than the average person in their country. I mean, you take someone like Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping went to Tsinghua University. I went down and gave a speech at Tsinghua University at one point. I think they were telling me that in one of the towns, one province in Beijing had 20 million people living in it, and their expectation was that one person living there would get a chance to go to Tsinghua. One of the 20 million. So I just think we live in a complicated world that is going to get more demanding, and to differentiate, you need that level of education. And as I said to you, you're not just competing with the students in this room to become the head of the Treasury or the head of the Reserve Bank in Cambodia or the biggest company. You're competing with a student that might be growing up in Malaysia, or a student that lives in Bangkok that says, I'll come across and I'll do that job. But equally, you're going to be competing in 10 years' time with someone that's graduated in the United States. You might be wanting to live there. And one big thing that you have going for you is you speak English. And in a global world, English is an amazingly powerful tool for you to be able to take those jobs wherever you want to go. So whatever you think of your timing, I'm sure you're thoroughly enjoying it. You are doing 100% the right thing being here, because this is all about the future and the future.
Well, on behalf of Youth Cambodia, I want to express our welcome to that you for such a powerful speech and of course dialogue with our humans here. Not everyone has the opportunity to engage in personal discussions. I think everyone heard what you have said. It's really inspirational advice to look at education, look at the competition, look at the future, have an open mind, and do your best to get failure, and with the right attitude, the right spirit, you can go a long way. maybe not 100% more opportunity, maybe 1,000 more opportunity than their parents. So the government does give a warm plug